What's going on, everyone? So I completed my 40 of 40 challenges in the Crucible League, and I feel like having done this, I have a lot of tips and tricks to share to help you to get closer to 40 out of 40. I won't talk about every challenge because a lot of these you just get from playing the game, such as Beginner's Basics. You're going to allocate a passive mastery, you're going to equip an item with 4 or more sockets, link sockets, and you're definitely going to do a lab, so there's no big deal there. What I really want to focus in on is the ones that are harder to do, or ones that you can kind of do in the background to combine with others just to be more efficient about finishing these challenges. First one is Peddlers Produce 1. So this one is just about doing vendor recipes to get a particular item. Now the Path of Exile wiki has a list of every vendor recipe that is known in the game, and so that's going to be your best resource for completing this particular thing. For spreading strength, the tip I have here is for depth 4 and 5. This is not particularly hard. Most of the items that you're going to find that you add Crucible Trees to are going to be depths 4 and 5 as a maximum. Depth 3 is a little hard to come by, and that's because the higher the item level, the higher the depths is likely to be. So if you need to get a depth 3 item, go to like Act 2 or 3, buy something there, and then add a Crucible Tree to it, and there's a very high probability it's going to be a depth 3. Lower item level also has the benefit of leveling up a lot faster. For the Abysses challenge, you're going to get the completing the Abysses and the Abyssal Rares pretty much just by playing every Abyss that you find. The Spire is a little hard to come by. I only had 4 out of 5 of these by the time I completed the challenge, so you can force a Spire to show up by using the proper Scarab. I think it's a Gilded. In that particular Scarab, if it doesn't lead to a depth, it leads to a Spire. And then for completing Abysses with at least 4 pits, these can happen naturally, or if you want to force it, you can do it on the tree and allocate this node right here. Abysses in your maps that do not lead to a depth lead to 4 pits. If you allocate this, you're going to get it really fast. For the Essences challenge, defeating Essence monsters and gaining Essences from monsters, this will come naturally if you just play the game. The ones with at least 6 Essences are a little harder, 6 and 7 and 8. They can be forced by taking some of the nodes on the tree, specifically these, 5% chance to contain additional essence, and then duplication. One other node down here that's imprisoned monsters have 15% chance to contain 3 additional essences. You can get up to, I think, 8 essences on one monster, so it's not too hard to find the ones with 6 if you have this allocated. And then for defeating an essence monster that has at least one of the following: Hysteria, Horror, Delirium, Insanity, all you gotta do is remember meds. So if you see an essence that is Misery, Envy, Dread, or Scorn, then hit it with a Remnant of Corruption, and it's possible that one of those will change to a Hysteria, Horror, Delirium, Insanity. You won't come across these just naturally, so you have to use the Remnant of Corruption. I usually keep 9 in my inventory. For Ambush, the only thing I want to talk about is the open, corrupted, and rare strong boxes. So there's 2 ways to get this. You can either make it rare with an Orb of Alchemy for every box you find, and then corrupt it with a Vault Orb. This is very expensive. The other option is you can allocate the proper node on the tree. Unfortunately, it's just 2 points. It's strong boxes in your map are corrupted, strong boxes in your map are at least rare. Take both of these and you'll have them done in no time. For the Hush Heist challenge, this is more or less just grindy. The only thing I want to talk about is the blueprint wings. So it's going to cost a lot of markers. So you're either going to have to buy some markers, or you're going to have to take points on the tree to get more caches that include more markers, because you're going to have to reveal a total of 40 wings, and that's, you know, at a cost of 3,000 or 4,000 markers a piece. That's going to be like 160,000 markers. So just kind of have that in the back of your head, that that's the amount of markers that you're ultimately going to need. Actually, one little correction there. Every blueprint will have a wing already revealed. So out of the 40 complete blueprint wings, you're probably going to have to reveal about 32 of those. So you're still going to need about 120,000 markers. For Hectic Harvest, the only annoying thing here is the harvest bosses. If you're in solo self-found, you're going to have to allocate the node on the tree, which says harvest crops and maps have a 60% increased chance to contain a tier 4 plant. A tier 4 plant will be a unique monster, and that's the one you're going to need. If you're in Trade League, honestly, I hate to say it, the best way to complete this is just to go in TFT and find people that have found the harvest monsters. It's not that expensive, 20 to 30 chaos. Next is crafting Kira's commodities. The only thing that I got confused on here was the Atlas. So these are base types of specific things. So for the Abyss, it's going to be items that are found in the Abyss. So just hit like a Stygian belt for that. The Atlas, these are specific items that drop in the Atlas. This is like spike gloves, two-tone boots, apothecary gloves, Vanguard, Belt, and so on. You'll definitely encounter these as you map, and you can just hit that with a Chaos Orb and you're good. Just make sure all of them are level 83. So for Expedition, you need to find a runic item, or whether it's a helm or boots or gloves. Experimented items are going to be ones you find in Grand Heist. This is things like Eventuality Rods. Maraketh items is just any item that has the word Maraketh in front of it, like a Maraketh bow. And then Ritual, these are going to be base types that can only be found in as ritual rewards. For extensively elusive executives, for the Abyssal Lich, you just have to find an Abyssal Depth. And since this patch, every Abyssal Depth does contain a Lich, so if you find one and you're in a T16 map, then you're guaranteed to find a Lich. For the Essence monster, at least 8 essences, you just do the strategy that I said before, and then you'll eventually find one that has 8. For the Metamorph, with at least 5 unique samples, the easiest way to do this is to go to Tane's laboratory. The only thing is that you have to use organs that are all level 83. For the Heist boss, you can do the Twins contract. I think that's a level 83 one. Expedition boss, you can either buy a logbook that says it contains a boss, or you can just do logbooks and you'll eventually find a boss. I found bosses in logbooks about 1 in every 5 logbooks, so you have to do 10 logbooks anyways, so you'll most likely find one. For Commander's Challenging Chores, most of these just show up naturally. These are the Kirok missions in your map device. All of them, except for Defeat the Breach Lord, show up pretty commonly, so you can do all those. For defeating the Breach Lord, what you can do for this is you can buy an otherworldly scouting report, and you can use it on the Kirok screen, and then you're guaranteed to get one that's for a Breach Lord. For cross-contamination, I feel like the 3 I did are the easiest. Defeating a Stygian Spire while affected by a shrine, this can easily be done by taking the point on your Atlas tree that says that you're guaranteed a shrine in a map, and then you can use a Gilded Abyss Scarab to guarantee a spire if it doesn't lead to a depth. So all you gotta do is locate the shrine, and then get the spire to pop, hit the shrine, kill the spire, no problem. Capture a beast holding an essence, you're just going to get that one naturally for the most part, because sometimes Einhar is in the map, and if you also have the essence nodes allocated and you get a bunch of essences, eventually one of the beasts is going to be in the essence, and so you'll get that naturally. Complete an expedition encounter while you're delirious. This is very simple. All you do is use an expedition scarab and take a delirium orb and apply it to a map. That way you're permanently delirious, then you just do the expedition. For ever-extending evolution, there's a couple nuances here that are important to talk about. So most people are going to get skill upgrades a tier and mutate into another just naturally by playing. For downgrade a tier, this is a little more complicated. What I end up doing is I bought low-level bases, just like shields or daggers. I don't remember exactly what I used. And I made sure that they just had 3 skills so I could level them up really fast. And then I looked at the tiers of the items, and I had one that had all tier 1 skills, and then I had another that had all tier 2 skills. I took it into a forge, melt the tier 1 base down into the tier 2 item, and you have like a 90% chance of having it downgrade one of those. For the unique item with a Crucible passive tree, I made a pretty big mistake when I tried this one. I had a unique item with a tree that had a depth of 3 but also a depth of 4. I thought I could just allocate the 3 because I read that it just had to be a dead end. This ended up not being the case. If your item can have a max depth of 4, you have to allocate 4. So what I did here instead is I went on trade and I bought some low-level unique bows. I think I bought a couple silver branches or a storm cloud. I don't remember exactly what, but I had them so they were low enough level to where they only gave me 3 passives. And then I allocated and leveled them up really fast. And then I took them into the higher level forge, because that's the only one that you can use to combine unique items, and then it guaranteed me that one. I would not recommend trying the 13 skill one. I had one that I got to 12, and I merged 2 12s that had nodes that I thought were going to merge into something that had 13 or 14, and it ended up bricking and it went down to like 7. So that's super RNG. I would highly advise not trying that one. For Merciful Masters, the best way to complete this efficiently is just to make sure every single map you run, you click one of the master events. Just use those up as fast as possible, and between using those up as fast as possible and the ones that you're going to naturally encounter anyway, these were not particularly hard. If you run out of encounters and you're still short, then you can use scarabs to shore up the rest. For Gifted Gem Cutter, there's a few of these we have to talk about. So for corrupting a gem to reach either level 21 or 23 quality, the best way to do this is to level up gems in your offhand. So, and you can do that with your main skill. You're most likely going to want a level 21 version of it anyway. So if you're playing Spark, for instance, just level up 6 Spark gems in your offhand, and then you can just corrupt them, and you have about a 1 in 8 chance for it to turn into a level 21 gem. But you also have a 1 in 8 chance for it to turn to 23% quality, so you have a 1 in 4 chance of completing this with your first set of gems leveled up in your offhand. Applying 6 or more support gem effects to a socketed skill gem at once, this is very easy by using the Bitter Dream Shadow Scepter, and this is because it has mods that make it a 6 link, and then you put a gem in there, it doesn't matter what, and then now you have a 7 link, and then equip it, and you get the achievement. And then for the socketed skill gem to reach at least level 26, this is easily accomplished by taking a Void Eye and a level 21 gem, put it in there, equip it, and you're done. If you don't have any level 21 gems, then you can just go on trade and you can buy the cheapest level 21 gem out there. It shouldn't cost you more than about 5 chaos. To corrupt a skill gem into a Vol version, just go to Lily, buy a bunch of Molten Shells, hit them with Vols, and you'll eventually get a Vol Molten Shell, and then you'll be done with that. Dense Domains is just something that's going to come naturally. However, you can speed it along by allocating Growing Hordes, which will have your Scarabs, instead of apply the effects of the Scarab, they'll be applied to pack size. And this is something that can get this done really fast. This was the method I used. I took all my junk scarabs that weren't really worth anything, and I just kept plopping them in the map device with Growing Hordes allocated, and I had dense domains done pretty quick. For meaningful memories, as you play the game, you're going to have memories drop, and for me, I dropped basically all of these. I only had to buy 1 Einhar, but the rest I just kind of found. So you just accomplish these. The one thing about these is the Alva, Nico, and Kirok memories are very cheap on trade, but the Einhar ones, for whatever reason, are insanely expensive. But there are certain Einhar ones that are insanely expensive, and some that are just slightly expensive. So if you find an Einhar memory, check its price, because it might be worth like 4 divine. And if it is, sell that one for 4 divine, and buy the cheaper one that's maybe like 120 C a piece. Get like 3 of those, and you'll be able to complete it and make a profit. For Molten Master, most of these are self-explanatory. The only little tip I have for this is the one while you're delirious. You can use the same strategy as complete an expedition while delirious. Take a delirium orb, apply it to a map, put in your map device, and then do the Crucible event and hope you get a rare monster, which you most likely will if you fully charge it. Sacred Scarabs actually synergizes well with the dense domains, and that's because when you put scarabs in to increase pack size, it also consumes them and applies it to this challenge. You're going to have to do this anyway. You might as well have Growing Hordes on and apply it to dense domains as well. Obviously, don't burn up good scarabs, but burn up all your trash. And I think once I had all my trash scarabs burned up, I was already at like 410 of 500. So this really finished pretty quick. For the Celestial Compass challenge, the tip I had here is there's some weird verbiage that's used here. So your maps contain an additional sextant shrine. There is no such thing as a sextant shrine. There is only a additional shrine you can find that you can't normally find that is only present with sextant. One example is a gloom shrine. So if you want to buy these on trade through charge compasses, don't look for Sextant Shrine, you won't find it, look for like Gloom Shrine. And then the same thing with Tormented Spirit. It's actually going to say a specific Tormented Spirit name, and then that's the one that you'll want to buy. However, most of these are pretty common, and you're going to gain a lot of Awakened Sextants as you go, so I would just recommend applying 4 of them to your Void Stones, and then every 3 maps just apply 4 more. If you find one of these, then use the Charge Compass. It costs 1 Chaos from Kirok. Store it, and then combine it with the correct one when you find it. The next challenge is Towering Titans, and this one is by far the worst, most grindy, hard one that I think I've ever seen. And if you're on solo self-found, I actually don't know how you would complete this. So these have to be done in Primordial Remnants, not the Primeval Remnants. Those are the cheap ones that you find just from doing fully charged Crucibles. You have to do the one in a Primordial Remnant. And from what I understand, the only way to find this is to find a weapon or some item that you put a Crucible tree on that will sell for an additional Crystalline Geode. But the story doesn't end there. Even if you get a Crystalline Geode and crack it open, you still have to be able to do the mods that are on the Geode and or rather the Primordial Remnant. And these mods are really crazy. It's a very tough encounter. So if you're on Trade League like I am, you're going to have to find or buy a lot of these, probably about 12 of them, and they range in price from 140 chaos up to 1 divine a piece, so this is very expensive to finish. You can make it a little cheaper by buying weapons that sell for an additional crystalline geode. Those generally cost about 100 chaos. You have to level them up, but you could potentially save yourself, you know, somewhere between 60 and 120 chaos a piece. And then once you get the crystalline geode and you crack it open, you know, if it's something that you can't run, you can just sell it on trade and use those proceeds to buy a different one. It is really, really RNG how many unique and rare monsters you find in these things. You don't really have to worry about the defeat 10 and the defeat 5 part of this challenge because you're guaranteed to get those most likely by the time you get 150. I had the defeat 10 rare and defeat 5 unique done before I was even half done with the rest. And a lot of times, maybe you get like 4 unique and like 8 rares per map. Sometimes you're a little luckier, sometimes you're less lucky. There are mods on the Primordial Remnant that will increase the amount of rare monsters or unique monsters. So if you are unbalanced in the, you know, how you're progressing the rare and unique monsters, you could pick the one that will catch you up. For Fortuna's Feud, you can pick the ones that you think are going to be the easiest for your particular build. These are the 3 that I did. I would say Chayula is for sure one you want to do, just because you can't fail it unless you die 6 times. You just hit the portals, let them open, run around, and avoid Chayula, and then after 3 portals are open, kill her, and then that's the end of that. And then for Izaro in the Eternal Lab, you have to do this in the empowered version. And that means you got to use either a tribute, gift, or dedication to the goddess. You don't want to do gift because that's very expensive. Dedication or tribute is the best options. However, with the dedication, the traps are more powerful, which you might prefer. And then for the tribute, Izaro is more powerful. And I found that one to be harder. They're both roughly the same price, so I ended up going with dedication, because I did it on my RF build, and I just wanted Izaro to be pretty weak. And then the third one I did was beating Uber Ziri without getting hit by Stormcall. This one was very annoying, but I did ultimately complete it. If you have more damage than I did, then it might be easier. Then finally, gear grinding goals. These are actually pretty accessible. I thought these weren't too bad. For the level 100, you can get this either by leveling, but usually what I do is I get to level 97, and then I go in TFT and I sit in 5 ways. And the thing about doing that is you can level up gems while you're doing 5 ways. And you can level about 30 gems to level 20, quality 20 over the course of 6 runs, which generally costs about 2 divine. You can usually sell all those gems if you buy a common one such as Flame Dash. You can sell those for well over 2 divine. And so it's actually free to level your character to 100. For the defeating rare monsters in the Crucible, you're going to just do that naturally, so you don't have to worry about that. And then activating altars, you're going to end up with 500 of 750 by completing the other challenge that's 250 apiece. So then you'll just play the game and get another 250. And then the 4 mod rare monsters, that should just happen naturally. And that's it. If you can do all that, then it should be a clean 40 of 40. I think in total this took me about 86 hours to do. Of playtime, and I'm sure about 10% of that was AFK, just me waiting for trades or something like that. So I feel like it went pretty fast, and Towering Titans was for sure the worst one. So if you're not inclined to get 40 of 40, that's the one you're going to want to skip. That one's very expensive, and if you're on solo self-found, it's probably impossible. And same with Hardcore, because those monsters are so insanely rippy, they one-shot everything. I have a very tanky Righteous Fire build that I was doing it with, and that was getting one shot all the time. Anyway, hope this helps you complete challenges and possibly achieve your next or your first 40 of 40 completion. Thanks all for watching, and I hope to catch you on a future video. See you later.